Industry Insider is only available at Promo Corner, the leader in digital marketing for the promotional products industry. Each Monday, they discuss, dissect, and debate a single issue impacting the world of promotional marketing from every industry perspective. Now, it's time for Promo Corner's Industry Insider.
Welcome to another edition of the Industry Insider podcast. My name is Jeff Franklin. I am the National Accounts Manager with Headwear USA, and I'm invited today by two other lovely folks. We're going to get to them in just a second, but first I want to let you guys know about TechWeld. All right, TechWeld USA is USA made in a world filled with worry regarding overseas products. They offer many USA made products to help separate themselves from the promotional products pack. Let's talk custom packaging, okay? At TechWeld, they love to create new every day. Their custom packaging division is a great example of this. Each box takes on a life of its own, and they can work to meet your custom specifications regarding packaging. They're also, you should check them out for sunglasses, all right? They're the winners of the Distributor Choice Awards for sunglasses. TechWeld won the 2019 Distributor Choice Awards in the sunglass category, and they've got many SKUs that are FDA approved and offer UVA and UVB protection. They've also got a great cannabis line, by the way, which is a great industry in the times that we're facing right now. Things have still have done really well for anything drugs or not drugs, but cannabis, cannabis or alcohol related. And so check out their cannabis line as well. They've recently launched their whole cannabis line of products and would love some word of mouth marketing to sort of help spread the word about those products. So, hey, go check them out at techweld.com for more information. You won't be sorry that you did. Now, as I said, I am joined today by two other lovely folks. And if you're watching live, yes, I'm the ugly one. Okay. I am joined today by, as always, our favorite Meg Erber in the industry. Meg, Big Meg, what's up? SNS Activewear, how are you?
What is up? I destroyed Tony Lametti. We just got to put that out there in our fantasy football league this week. He says he didn't fit his lineup.
It's easy to beat somebody that gave up 4 weeks ago.
So he says.
Okay. I'm sad because I'm on like a 3-week losing streak or something.
Yeah.
Like somehow the guy I played this week comes up with 174 points when he's been averaging like 80 points a week. So.
Oh, I think I know you're talking about. VJ had him. He was losing, and then all of a sudden he was like, my wide receiver just gained 65 points and I won. So yeah.
So it's been great. But hey, Jeremy Witt just chimed in on Facebook and says, go Steelers. True that. Only undefeated team in the NFL right now. Dana, would you care to chime in?
Go sports. You know me.
I
love hockey.
I love it.
Go sports.
So that voice is Dana Geiger. If you don't know who Dana Geiger is, she's with PPAI. And prior to that, she was an executive director for a couple different regional associations. So we're going to talk today, before we give Dana a chance to introduce herself, we're going to talk today about LDW at home, which, we can talk about what that is and what that all was about. But then we're also going to talk about sort of state of the regionals. So Dana, before we jump into that, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to the folks? If anybody doesn't know who you are, I don't know why. But ultimately, you're the best, coolest person in the industry, and I'm super pumped to have you on today. So Dana, take it away.
Wow. Thanks for having me, guys.
First of all, hold on. One second. I'm going to interrupt you, okay? I'm very disappointed that you stole my background. All right? I know my office is super cool. But it was really, it's unprofessional, Dana.
I was wondering if you were going to address that. I know. I just can't help it, Jeff.
That's amazing.
All right, take it away. Sorry.
Hi, everyone. My name is Dana Geiger, and I always like to lead with, for people I haven't met, that I am not affiliated with the industry legacy, the industry royalty Geiger. So it's a lot of times when people, I first meet them, they have that question, and it's a fair question because it's not a common name. So it's just a lovely coincidence for me that makes people return my calls until they realize that I'm not affiliated. I actually, I have always ever been on the association side of things. And like Jeff said, I work for PPAI, and I have since March of 2018. And I'm the regional relations manager. And so what that really means is I work with the 27 regional associations around the country to help connect them, bring resources, support them, and connect them to resources at PPAI. But before that, I worked as an executive director for 3 regional associations. And I had the pleasure of working with and for Jeff, who was my president at CPPA for a couple of years. I came into the industry in 2010. for VAPA, and actually I was looking for a new job. I was in the association world. I was in the charitable association worlds, and I looked on Craigslist, and I saw an ad for a part-time executive director, and I thought, oh yeah, sure, that's legit. And I sent a resume, and I quickly realized it was legit because Robert Fiveash was the one that called me, and I could tell
I don't know him either.
no time that he was, you know, he meant business. So that's how I happened into the industry in 2010. Before that, I was in nonprofits and I did sell for a while. But I really felt like I belonged. I always say in this industry, you kind of like a misfit child. You either know if you fit or you don't, and you know pretty quickly. So
you fit better than any other, Dana Geiger. I cannot believe how well you fit in our industry. You're like the cog that makes this whole thing tick. Like, I don't understand, you know, like
She really is. She's like the backbone.
That's kind. I don't have to sit there and sell every day though. So it's easy probably for me to remain calm because I'm not putting out fires like you are sometimes. But so then I worked for PPAI. So I did all those 3 associations kind of in different times, but it gave me a really great network of friends. So many of my dearest friends I met when I came into this industry, present company included. So, I mean, really, if you think about it, before I came on here today, I'm like, I've been fortunate. I get to sit at a table and laugh with people and like get to know people on like a real personal level that I get to work with on a daily basis. And I have never had that before this industry. So that's kind of my story in a nutshell. That encapsulates it, I think, for the most part. Awesome. I didn't take 3 minutes though.
What charitable association were you working with prior to your industry experience?
Oh, thanks for asking. The Alzheimer's Association was where I was for a long time. My grandmother had the disease for 18 years, and so
long time to have to deal I'm sorry.
Very sad. So I started as a volunteer with them, and then it worked into what was part-time work after I had my son 18 years ago. And then I became their program manager. And I loved it, but it was something that I couldn't turn off on the weekends, right? And so I wanted to stay in the nonprofit lane because I kind of operate that way. And so the trade association was like the perfect scenario because it's still meaningful and important to people's lives, but do lives depend on it? I mean, sometimes we get in escalated situations and we think so, but with the Alzheimer's Association, it was just, there was phone calls from people that were getting diagnosis and it was just a little too much. So it was better that I pull off, but I'm still a huge advocate of this, of Alzheimer's Association. So.
That's awesome.
I had to do like a report when I was in high school on Alzheimer's Association, and we had to like reach out and like get information. And I think for the next 13 years, I kept receiving information.
Well, good. I'm glad to know that they keep you on the list. Hopefully you don't actually need it though.
I know. Great marketing.
So, like I said, we do want to get into LDW at home. So first of all, anybody that doesn't know what LDW stands for, it stands for Leadership Development Workshop. And basically it is an incredible conference that is held by PPAI year after year for all of the volunteers of the regional associations. And Dana, if I'm not accurately describing or leaving anything out, please feel free to correct me. But when I first joined the regional community or the regional board at CPPA, I had no idea what LDW was. And typically they like to encourage, if not mandate, that the newest members of each board make sure that they're in attendance because it is very vital. And honestly, the first 9 months of my tenure as a director at large with CPPA, I had no idea or no clue what I was doing. I didn't quite know where my place was. And when I went to my first LDW, it was really a springboard into figuring out exactly where I fit and where I could contribute. Because, you know, when you're new to anything, you really just don't necessarily want to ruffle feathers or be the greenie, you know, the new guy that comes in and yeah kid, okay, whatever. And so ultimately you're not really quite sure where you can fit in or where you can contribute. So LDW was incredibly impressed upon me as far as like what I can do. So This year, with everything that's happened, like many other events, things have gone virtual. So tell us, and LDW at Home was what, 2 weeks ago?
Yep.
So yeah, if you could fill us in on, LDW, give us a recap at Home, and just, let us know how that all took place, how the decision went from doing an in-person thing in Dallas down to doing it virtual at Home, and what the whole process was with that, Dana.
Yeah. Well, I think you stated that beautifully, that the Leadership Development Workshop is an annual event just for regional association volunteers and executive directors. And so for people that maybe aren't familiar with the regional community, there are 27 regionals around the country, and they are all managed by separate, they're all separate 501c6 trade associations. They all have their own, mostly part-time executive director, like I said, and there are a few with full-time, and then the rest of the management is done by the volunteer board. And so I believe the evolution of the event was, it was 21 years ago. This was the 21st LDW that, and where PPAI and RAC, the Regional Association Council, realized that there was a whole lot of value in bringing this community together and providing them with the know-how and the knowledge to manage these small trade associations. Because a lot of times you get folks that are maybe have never done any kind of board service before, and they're not, familiar with parliamentary procedure and all of that stuff. So that's how it evolved. And it's, I am biased, but I do feel like it's a crown jewel of events, because it's the one event where really no one's trying to sell the other person. I mean, surely, yes, you make contacts, and I think contacts that have can transcend years and different jobs, but it kind of strips away that vendor, client relationship, and you really just get people at their best. You're both laughing.
We're just laughing at Tony's.
Tony Lametti chimed in on Facebook. He wants to know why we have the same offices. I've already addressed that issue, Tony. Dana likes to steal people's backgrounds. So ultimately, she somehow got a snapshot of my office and is using it as a virtual background. Can you believe that? Ridiculous. No. Ridiculous.
I want to be like Jeff. Actually, if you see the LDW logo over your right shoulder there, Jeff, you can see that Jeff filtered my background.
No, not at all. I just know that we're talking about LDW at Home right now, and I'm representing. Okay.
So we decided to host it online this year because, well, what's the alternative? Right? I know. As much as we reluctantly didn't want to not be all together, I mean, the idea of everyone getting on a plane and coming together just seems moderately irresponsible, not to mention that a lot of people are down in finances, and so it was a financial decision, but moreover COVID. So then it was like, well, how do we create an event that, I mean, it's not like there's a sales pitch, right? The value of this event is what Bill Petrie said best, is casual collisions, right? With people at the bar, at the food trough, in between sessions, and then discussing what they heard together in small. And that was really the biggest challenge, is how do we do that in a virtual setting? And do I think that we had the same kind of experience? No. Do I think that we had an experience that was meaningful? Yeah, I do. And we did it pretty quickly on the fly. It looked very different. The content was not as continual, like when we had everybody at the DFW Lakes Hilton. We stuff you with food from beginning to end to keep you awake, and we line up classes with nary a minute of break. But this was 3 days, and I know my own attention span. I was like, we got to keep it short, sweet, right, and then culminate in some kind of with actionable things. So the first 2 days were, I think, about 2 hours of real content. Then we had a happy hour, which is where Jeff stole that background. And he actually won a gift card for doing it, I will add. And then the next day was about the same time frame.
Are you trying to flip the script on me?
Me?
Yeah.
I'm trying. Yes, I'm always trying to flip the script. Oh, okay. All right.
The window is right here.
I know, but it's not that sunny today here in Virginia Beach. Now you're messing with my head.
All right, all right. I stole Dana's background. Yes, I won a gift card at LDW at Home because I was creative.
Yeah. You were.
At least I'd like to.
You and about 12 or 13 others were creative. So those are the types of things we tried to do, is just kind of pepper in like spontaneous awards. And if you came to the event, when you got there, you really just heard me and Rena talking to ourselves, kind of like this, as we were kind of, and really that happened pretty quickly, like on the fly. I was like, I think we need to be there like we typically are when people arrive at a session, like welcoming them at the door, like, and so it was 30 minutes before start where I was like, I think we should just be on screen, like encouraging the chat, and that's really how it evolved. And I think that piece that someone referred to it this morning is like kind of an MC. It's not what I went into it with, but it turned out like kind of like being that thread through the event. I think that made people, reminded them that they were attending in real time, and made them feel connected in a way. You were there, Jeff, right? Meg, were you there? I don't know if you were.
Not this year. I'm not on a board for any of the regionals.
I know you're a volunteer though for committees.
Am I?
Right?
Yeah.
So, I'm sure. Go ahead,
I was
please.
going to say my experience at LDW at home, having been to several other in-person ones, like any virtual event, I think does fall a bit short from what the in-person offers. And I think that's probably would have been one of the hardest things as far as organizing something like this. Would have been, how do you recreate that? And the answer is you can't. Like, there's no possible way to recreate what you experienced at LDW in person in Dallas. And so ultimately, I think you did an absolutely phenomenal job doing what you did, and in as little time as you had to plan it. But, for me, like you have a very captive audience when you're at LDW in person. People are stuck in the same hotel for the most part for 3-4 days. You're literally in breakout sessions the whole entire time, or you're doing networking and bar activities, and a few other things. And we can talk LDW war stories, because I know Meg's got a few to share.
That's some of the best.
Having done some LDWs in the past herself.
Yeah.
And we should probably just dive into that a little bit, but so it was, like you said, attention spans are short in virtual. So my favorite parts were the main stage prior to the general sessions. That was a lot of fun. I think you and Rena did a great job at hosting that.
Is the best.
The chat was awesome. There's a lot of people lighting chat up, and we were, still having that social interaction, even though it was through chat and not, in person. The platform you guys used was great. Hopin, if anybody's not familiar with that, it was actually a really cool platform for hosting this type of event. And it wasn't very expensive either, from what I was told. Damon sort of filled me in on that.
Really
and
affordable, which is probably why it was one of the main reasons it was chosen.
Yeah.
It's so accessible. Plus, I always try and feel like if there's a product that I can use that the regionals could also use, right? And they're always driven by, limited funds, then there could be value there. So I totally agree. I think it was the right choice for LDW, and I'm glad you had that experience with it.
Yeah.
I mean, these virtual events, they're hard to pivot from these amazing. I mean, I feel like the LDWs that I went to were the best events of the year. Like, we all were fighting in our region of who got to go to the next one. I mean, I was like, I'll fight you, so I'm going to go, and they just let me go. But Jolie Porter would be like, can't go again. I remember what I remember of it the most was the education. If you're going in there as a newbie, LDW literally arms everybody with the tools they need to do to wear that regional hat well. And because when you come in, you're either a distributor, you're a supplier, you're a service provider, and you're just, they teach you, like, you have to take that hat off at the door. You're not coming here as a supplier or a distributor. You're coming here as a leader for your regional, and we're going to teach you how to be that leader. And I think gained so much knowledge just from I think I went to like 3 or 4 in a row, but they were amazing. And the networking that goes on, because I always talk about how social media really humanizes you, but when it comes to these events, like, that really is the mark, because during your 9 to 5, your customers or your vendors, they might only see a certain side of you. And then it's what happens after those hours, the networking events, the karaoke. I mean, let's be honest, no one really wants to hear me sing Save a Horse, Ride a Cowboy, but it's so funny that it's fun. I
do. What do you mean?
Video somewhere.
Oh, we gotta find that. We have to find that.
Bruce Corn and his Sweet Caroline. Like I still remember these. Like this is just so much fun that we have. We all get together, and then it's like something to talk about afterwards. So I feel like that part, since I don't know, but I'm assuming that was what was really missing from this, and it's not something you can replace, which is kind of heartbreaking because it's just the world that we live in right now.
Yeah. So Walter Kurt chimes in. He says education at LDW is awesome. So pat on the back, Dana, for
Walter.
that. And he also says he misses LDW. So it's about time for him to come back, I think. And you're allowed to make a comeback. And as a matter of fact, most regionals may have already put out their call for board nominations or elections, but it may not be too late. So yeah, if your local association is putting out nominations, I would highly encourage you to reach out and get involved in board service. It's the greatest thing I've done in the industry for my career and for my own personal ambition as well. Like it's really been phenomenal. So highly encourage you to do that. Real quickly, I think we should exchange just a war story at LDW or a funny moment just in the past, because I think, Meg, we need to bring some of these to light. Why not? Right, Dana? Right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Let's hear it, Meg.
Are you guys waiting on me to come up with my
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Meg, go. Go.
Well, alcohol is always fun, right? So I think this was when I was in my prime for jiu-jitsu and competing. And, when people start drinking, they're like, hey, that's the girl who fights. That's the girl who fights. And then the more drinks that you have, people start eyeing you up and you're like, that girl who's wearing a skirt and heels, like, I can take her. And this is how every story goes. They all think that. And then I go, here we go again. I think that one year in particular, Dan Jenny had a suite and we had a fight club.
He was the rack board president that year.
Yes.
I think, and he had the suite. Yep.
I remember I went against 3 grown men, even though one of them likes to think that he beat me. He did not.
I think that may have been the highlight of their year, but go on.
It might have been. But yeah, I mean, I'm kind of known as the legend from LDW from that week.
By the way, I've never looked at you and thought I can take her. So I've never gone through my head, but yeah, I was actually new that year, I think. Maybe. And I didn't know any of this went on until like later I heard these stories, and it's still talked about because I think security was called, right?
Oh,
there was
they did. Yeah.
Shoes left in the elevator.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, there's definitely some good stories that have continued to be told from that.
See, get involved in a regional and go to LDW, folks. Come on, what are you waiting on?
Know what's gonna happen?
You never know.
You never know. You never know.
You never know.
All
what
right,
about you, Jeff?
Well, I think we're running out of time, actually. I think we'll probably move on to some regional association business, right?
That's probably good. That's probably good. I liked your segue with volunteer for your regional, right? Because I think a lot of people, if they are involved in their regional, if they aren't asked personally, they don't necessarily seek out opportunities. And it's something we talk about all the time, is being better at making the ask, but also I want to give people the courage to ask how they can contribute. So, if you know the regional community, you know that right now, I think it's a trying time. It's a trying time for our industry, and it's definitely a trying time for our regionals or our associations, because their revenue comes from trade shows. And what are we not having? Trade shows. Although I did see 5 outside shows, I think with this week, it happened at the regional level, which is why it speaks to the value of the regional, right? If anyone's going to get tiptoe back into this in-person business, it can be done regionally because people aren't getting on airplanes. So, but they need the support of volunteers, and they need support of their members. So if I could objectively make a call to action, if you are a regional member, typically you get your membership renewals at this time of year for most, and you might not pay it till that first show in January, which I totally get. Pay that bill ahead of time, because you may not have an in-person event, and if there's ever a time your regional needs your membership, it's now. Because a lot of them are doing these events and they're not producing any revenue. They're doing it because the market needs it, because the members need it. So if I can put that call to action, most regional dues are incredibly affordable, especially in comparison to other association or chambers. If you compare, it's like, what is it, like $8 a month or something like that. Well, within my
crazy
so
low.
that's my pitch for the regionals. But I do think that that's, it speaks to like the climate, what's happening. And I'm seeing more and more regionals do smaller, what I consider thoughtful events in the times that we're in, but they're connecting the members, because that's why you belong to a regional, in my opinion, is you want to feel connected. And whether it's, certainly that's where business gets done. But I mean, if you talk to people, I know the partnership between suppliers and distributors often gets, it's that partnership, it's that relationship that they have that gets them what they need for their client. And those real relationships, to me, form in a local level.
I have to agree with you. I mean, I just did like a 2-minute spotlight on I think one of these podcasts that SNS does. And I didn't have enough time, but my hope, 'cause I only have 2 minutes, but the second part of growing the relationships was about joining your regional association. I think it might've got cut short, so I don't know if that made it or not. But again, it goes into this 9 to 5 and then these volunteer opportunities that are available for networking. I mean, even Jeff hit the nail on the head. He's like, it's really helped him grow personally and professionally in his career as a person. And I think that goes for everybody, me too. I was on 2 boards at one time, SAGNY and CPA, and it was very rewarding. The things that I was able to do, I came out of my shell, and you get to really do things. You got to find what your strength is, and you use that to kind of wear that regional hat, like I was saying. But I think everybody should be a part of the regional association if given the opportunity. It could be something as small as being on a committee to decide show shirts. I don't know. But when it comes down to it, it's a great opportunity for networking. When it comes down to the distributors, like, you want to know your local reps. Those are the guys that you're going to call if something goes wrong. If you're in a bind, you need special pricing, you need a project idea, or you need a sample. Like, if you call customer service at any given supplier rep, you may not get that same treatment. But when you develop that relationship with your local rep, they want that business equally as much as you want that help. So it's I think the best networking opportunities are done at these regional association events.
Well said, Erber. Well said.
I pull something out of my hat every once in a while.
Yeah. So Dana, let's just briefly touch base on the, I guess, state of the regionals, because obviously we did talk, obviously with COVID-19 and the regional associations, getting the majority of their revenue from trade shows. Do you, like, in the back of your head, if you were still in an executive director capacity, would you have any ideas as to how regional associations could particularly earn non-trade show revenues, to sort of help stay alive in this situation? And I mean, I'm sure that has already been.
Well, that's been the question for 10 years, right? Is we got to diversify revenue, easier said than done. There's always some advertising opportunities, and especially with more online programs, that increases some. I also think that regionals can look to kind of identify year-long partners that might have a financial commitment that then hopefully they can quantify. I think if you partner throughout the years, instead of just being a show sponsor, you would be, an annual sponsor of regionals. But I think it's going to be incrementally. I don't think there's going to be one source of revenue that replaces what shows have been able to produce. I think that's okay. If anything, it'll teach us to diversify in small ways moving forward, but it's going to happen in small bits. And so right now what we're seeing is regionals are having these events. They're not making any money on them, I'm sure of it. If they are, they may be breaking even. They're probably losing money, but it's important, right? Because it's what the members need right now. At some point that has to become, they got to figure out a way to monetize it. And I think it will be interesting to see, as it's going to be driven by the pandemic and what, because I think that in-person touch is so important. But we are seeing some regionals do hybrid events. I've seen a couple out of, Mark's done a couple great ones where he's had in-person events, but he's also had a virtual component. And together, if you look at the participant numbers, they're kind of equal to what he had in a live event. So it takes some time to think about, but I think we're going to just see the gamut depending on geography, right? Because things happen differently in New York and California than they do.
Exactly. They're totally different. They were hit at different times. And where in California, one of my coworkers said, if you were outside riding your bike and not wearing a mask, they shame you. And I'm like, wow. And here in New Jersey, if you're riding a bike wearing a mask, I'm shaming you. I'm just I'm sorry, you need to breathe. Okay. So, but I really think that's right. It really depends on where you are in the country and how your local government or whatever is treating the situation. So that's really tough too. But I like what you said when it came to like the hybrid numbers. That might be what we need to work on and focus on right now is people may not want to show up, but that doesn't mean you have to go and I want to say ruin it for everybody else, but it doesn't mean you need to cancel the event and ruin it for everybody else. I get Expo flying in crazy, totally understandable. But for instance, Expo East is coming up or would be coming up next June. I know I'm on the committee for that. So, and it's not even Expo East anymore. So that's part of PPAI. We sent out a survey. We wanted to know what the members want. You know, Joel Schaefer put together this great analogy and he's like, we are building a custom house. We have the architects, but we need to find out, we need the building materials. We need the tools. Where is this house going to be? You know, what do you want to have in the house? That kind of thing. And I think we're all trying to build it from scratch. And we reached out to the members of all the local regionals to ask for their input. And it was really important that we get that too, because I know what I want and I know what Joel wants, and they're not the same thing because we're two different, you know, we're both suppliers, we're both friends, but we both have different outlooks on what we think is best for the industry. But that's what's so great about having a board. You get 10, 12 people together that all have these great ideas, and together we can kind of bring it and make the best event. So it's tough. We're all in a sticky spot, and I think we can just do the best that we can with what we have. And I think
I saw that survey come out, and I didn't click on it, didn't take it because I don't have that vantage point. But I loved. I'm glad that to me is what the regionals do best, is they connect to their members, they ask their members. But not only that, they listen to their members. So if you have been to Expo East or Promotions East before it, take that survey so that something can be, your voice can be heard. And I think that people, assume their voices aren't heard in these types of organizations, but to the contrary, if you speak up, your voice is heard.
We're listening. We are listening. That's for
It's
sure.
definitely heard. I mean, obviously, like anything goes. I mean, there's going to be varying viewpoints, and you can't obviously satisfy everybody. So, if you have ever submitted, your viewpoint on something, and it didn't necessarily go the way that you would have liked to have seen it, don't be discouraged, because it just means that, the overwhelming majority would have thought differently. But every voice is heard for sure. So,
Yeah.
all right, you guys want to break into the newest segment of our podcast?
I'm ready.
Dana Geiger
ready.
I'm new, so I'm always ready.
Dana gets to be the guinea pig. This is going to be fun. All right, Meg, why don't you, since this was sort of your idea, why don't you launch us here? Tell us what.
Yeah. Well, I just did the I want to say social angle with Vin Driscoll from ASI, and he was like, I got this great idea. He's like, you should do it too. I was like, why not? It sounds like fun. It's a quid pro quo. We each ask each other a question. We had 3 of us. It was me, Steven, and Jeff, but we were going to ask you 3 questions each, or 1 question each, and then have you ask us a question. But Steven's not here, so we're just going to go, and I'm just going to shoot, and you just give me like the best and fastest answer. We're not going to talk about politics or religion or whatever, but we're going to make this fun. So my question to Dana is, what is your favorite already been chewed vegetable?
Oh, the answer to this. Or is it a vegetable?
Already been chewed.
I don't know. I was going to say Meg Erber's edamame. I shared a bowl that she already ate, but that's disgusting. But it sounds
pre-COVID, everybody, pre-COVID.
Pre-COVID, and it was totally on accident, but people were watching me do it, I think, for the first few beans, and like, what is she doing? And then I was like, are these eaten? And you're like, ugh. So thanks for that.
It was angry edamame. It was so good. There was probably some spice left over after I.
Yeah, it was so good. I don't know where to get that anymore.
I'm learning so much today. All right.
I got Jeff.
Dana Geiger. Number one piece of advice for raising children.
Ooh, good one.
Jeez. Oh gosh, Jeff.
This is not rapid fire, Dana. What the hell? Come on.
I know.
Yeah, I thought you wrote the book. I mean, you have these amazing. I'm so proud of you and your son right now. Like, I want him to be my son. I'm not gonna lie. I want to steal him.
He's precious. Both my children are precious. I say I have perfect children. My sister tells me I won the baby lottery. I think I did. I'm kind of an asshole sometimes though. So, so I think my advice is, love big, but give boundaries, right? Because my mom used to tell me, you're too hard on them. You're too hard on them. But we had very specific boundaries that we didn't cross. And it was like, even though they were adorable and really good kids, if you forgot your homework 3 days, I'm sorry, that third day, I'm not saving you. Like, go, so, and it would have been easy to go, oh, you're a good boy. You're just absent-minded. I'll drive it up. The school's right around the corner. But I was like, no, you're never going to learn if I do it for you. So, I love big, but, I definitely was a disciplinarian to a degree.
Now, do you feel like, because I'm very much with you, I'm in that category with you as well. So, do you feel like that has posed any issues with your relationship with your children? Sorry, this is a part A of the question. I know this isn't how the segment's supposed to go, so I apologize.
I know you have little kids. Are you literally just looking for answers right now, Jeff?
I'm looking for validation for my style of parenting. That's all.
Let's talk about it.
We have a couch.
Do I think that there's ramifications to that? But I think my kids say that I'm the hard one, which my husband, he's like, no, she's not. But I am the hard one, probably. But I don't consider that negative necessarily. As a matter of fact, as our kids got older, when we were with kids that maybe were a little more unruly, they would be like, those kids are crazy. Like, so
yeah, see, I think they might hate it in the short term, but I think when they grow up and realize, they'll have a much bigger appreciation for what you did as a parent.
100%.
I hope so. I mean, I screw up on the daily, so I hope I'm getting something right.
I know.
Sweet. All right. Thank you for answering our questions, Dana. What is your question to us?
I have a question. Okay, so I get 2 questions, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so you both have to answer them both?
Yeah.
Oh, do we?
Okay.
Yeah, why not?
So what is something that you've done in the last 9 months or learned about yourself in the last 9 months that has surprised you?
That once I turn 40, it is very hard to lose weight. Very hard.
Yes, you did turn 40 this year.
Mm-hmm.
That was, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
it was like, been working out for 8 weeks straight.
So my answer to this question, I think we talked about this. Was it Jessica Gouch Ribbons that we had on that, or Jessica Gibbons Rouch? Sorry, that was talking about the sourdough.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I am notoriously terrible. I'm a good cook, but I'm notoriously terrible at doing anything bread. Okay. I've tried to make fresh bread because I love the smell of it. It tastes great. I've tried sourdough cultivating and starting and doing all that weird, crazy jazz. I feel like my sourdough is better than my bread, but it was still terrible. And then, so basically in the last 9 months, I figured out that I'm actually pretty kick-ass at making pizza dough from scratch and making pizza from scratch. It's actually better than ordering takeout. Yeah.
See?
So that's mine. Question number 2.
Question number 2. Well, this is where I was torn. I'm going to go with the fluffy one, which is, what are you going to be for Halloween? Come on. You don't have sense.
I'm going to be the COVID dad. We're not trick-or-treating, unfortunately. I'm so sad.
I thought you'd still be dressing up with girls, no?
Well, I mean, I can tell you what my girls are going to dress up as.
Okay, that'll do.
Oh, you know what? I'll be a Steeler. You know what? I've got all the jerseys and I've got the memorabilia.
Sports.
You know. Look, everybody's afraid of the Steelers right now, and rightfully so. So I'm going to go as the scariest costume you could possibly imagine.
Yourself?
What are your girls going to be? Your
wow, Meg. So Khaleesi's going to be Snow White, and shit, what is Ayana going to be? I think one of the other Disney princesses. I can't remember.
Elsa, Anna, probably.
All right, you're not dressing up. Your little one has to be though.
You know, yeah, she is. Like every year I'm like, oh, what are we gonna be for Halloween this year? And we haven't done Halloween in like 6 or 7 years. I keep waiting to be invited to like someone's Halloween party, but that's really the problem. And since nobody's invited me, we're not going.
Especially this year, right? No.
Yeah. Well, I almost posted, does anyone have a Halloween party? But I'm like, nobody's having a Halloween party. So she wanted to be like everything under the moon. So she settled on a butterfly and we kind of made it, got some wings from Party City and a tiara and mask. So yeah. And we're going to do, instead of trick-or-treating, the neighbors and I are kind of doing like a Easter egg hunt type for Halloween. So we're going to all dress up and do the Halloween, but just around the house. Because they are having Halloween here in New Jersey, but who's doing it? And where we live, it's very rural. So like you have a house here and then like a house down there. So if you only have every 7 houses, I'm going to be walking all night. And I'm 40.
Maybe not getting any
hard.
Fair enough. So, I'm going to redeem myself right now, because if you are going to be trick-or-treating, you should definitely be using some hand sanitizers. And guess who's got some really great hand sanitizers? TechWeld, for sure. You know what? Right now, hand sanitizers, due to the coronavirus outbreak, definitely something that's trending worldwide. CDC recommends sanitizers and washing your hands to help prevent the spread of the disease. They've got many sanitizer SKUs that can help combat the spread of the virus. So listen, if you're trick-or-treating, make sure you treat your hands to some hand sanitizer, all right? And make sure it's TechWeld's. They've also got some FDA compliant products, very many FDA compliant products. In a time of uncertainty, knowledge that a product is FDA compliant is key in allowing the customers to feel at ease when placing their orders. So feel free to check out their hand sanitizers and their FDA compliant products at techweld.com. You won't be sorry that you did. Meg, how'd I do? Much better this week.
It was a much better segue.
That was good.
That was very well done. Well done.
I give Dana Geiger the credit. I've had to step my game
up. I'll take it.
I've had to step my game up. All right. So
thanks everybody for listening today.
Anybody has any other closing questions or comments?
Just love you, Dana.
I love you guys. I feel like I've had lunch with friends. Thanks for having me. Thanks for the ambassadors that you are for the regional community. You make a huge difference.
Thank you.
Awesome. Oh, you know what, Meg? Real quick, Lori Moore says, wait till you hit 50, Meg.
I saw that.
Oh, great.
Yeah. All right, fair enough. On that note, we'll end.
That's a great note. Bye, guys.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Promo Corner's Industry Insider. For more great content from industry thought leaders, including podcasts, blogs, and videos, visit promocorner.com.